I caught my husband with my sister. Now they beg for my forgiveness. I froze in the doorway. My husband, the man I loved with all my heart, was tangled on our couch with my sister. Even though the lights were off and just the faint glow of the afternoon sun filtered through the curtains, I could see them clearly. He had his arm around my sister's waist as she leaned into him. Their startled, guilty faces were illuminated by the single lamp in the corner, eyes wide with shock as they realized I was there. In that moment, the world narrowed to just us three in the room, my chest burning with disbelief and anger, theirs filled with shame. It felt like my life had shattered around me in a single heartbeat. I had come home early from work, planning to surprise them with a small gift I had picked up on the way, a red box of chocolates and a card. I smiled to myself, remembering how my sister adored that chocolate brand, and my husband always teased her about it. At that moment, my mind refused to process what I was seeing. My mouth went dry, and my hands shook so hard my purse almost fell. The chocolate box slipped, spilling golden wrappers onto the carpet. I didn't even notice until they glinted in the low light. It was as though even those chocolates knew this happy moment had twisted into a nightmare. My hands gripped the doorframe to keep myself from sinking to my knees. The question I finally managed to choke out was, what is going on here? My voice sounded strangled and small. They both started, turning fully toward me. My sister's face paled and she jumped up, scrambling to untangle herself, and my husband lunged to button his shirt, avoiding my eyes. For a moment, no one spoke. Then my sister whispered, "This isn't what it looks like." I couldn't remember ever feeling more heartbroken or humiliated. The question burned in my throat. How long has this been going on? Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes as I stumbled backward, pulling my cardigan tighter around my shoulders. I felt completely exposed, like I had just witnessed every private moment of my life be shattered in an instant. I managed to squeak out that I needed a moment and rushed to the safety of the bathroom, slamming the door behind me. Inside, I locked myself in and collapsed onto the cold tile floor, my back against the wall. The familiar chill stung my skin and grounded me, but it couldn't cool the fire of pain coursing through me. My reflection in the mirror looked distant. My eyes were red and swollen, and even standing there, I could barely recognize the terrified woman staring back. My hands trembled as I turned on the faucet, splashing cold water over my face. The icy droplets soaked my cheeks, but could do nothing to calm the inferno of betrayal burning inside me. I stared at the sink and saw my reflection, pale, eyes swirling with shock and hurt. Suddenly, the years of trust I had built in my marriage, in my sister, felt as fragile as a spider's web. I closed my eyes and let the world feel heavy on me, just for a second. How could this be happening? How could they do this to me? A few days earlier, nothing felt out of place. My sister, who had always been part of our family every day, often dropped by unannounced. She was my best friend and my husband's favorite aunt. That week, she mentioned casually that she'd be staying over at our house on Friday night. I laughed and thought nothing of it. Maybe she wanted to save on gas money or was having car trouble. I was convinced everything was fine because our lives had always been tightly knit. But now, seeing that I was wrong, memories rushed in. I remembered us playing as kids in this very living room. We had vowed on some rainy Saturday to always protect each other, a childhood promise exchanged with an innocent handshake. Apparently, promises made as children didn't mean a thing to them now. We all sat on the couch after dinner, the three of us joking around over an old movie on TV. My husband playfully nudged my sister's shoulder, and she teased him back about something insignificant. I remember feeling a little jealous seeing how close they seemed, but I brushed it off as just them being like brother and sister. That same week, I had left work a little early, humming on the way home. I had no clue that underneath our laughter, something sinister had been brewing. In those moments, I never could have imagined this closeness hid a terrible secret. Over the years, there were small things I had noticed but downplayed. A lingering hug that lasted one heartbeat too long, a shared look from across the room that I shrugged off as familiarity. Sometimes I'd peek at my husband's phone when he was in the shower and see it unlocked, but I never snooped. Once I even felt a pang of jealousy when I saw a text on his screen from her. I didn't think anything of it. It was just my sister being my sister, I told myself. And my sister? Well, she always had a mischievous streak. I remember one time she borrowed his cologne without asking. He laughed it off, calling it her favorite scent. I never, even in my darkest nightmares, linked those moments to this moment. My hand still shook as I grabbed my phone from my bag. I didn't know what else to do, but I needed to tell someone. I dialed my best friend, Lisa, and held it to my ear as I waited for her to pick up. When she answered, I just sobbed into the phone and whimpered, They're they're together. She didn't need any more explanation. I could hear her catch her breath on the other end. I'll be right over, she said, and I closed my eyes, knowing I wouldn't make it through the next minutes without her. As I backed into the bathroom and shut the door behind me, grief washed over me. For a moment, I was 6 years old again, sitting at the kitchen table with my big sister by my side, eating mac and cheese. Back then, the world made sense. She'd always protected me, no matter what. Now, she was the one hurting me. 10 minutes later, I heard the doorbell ring in a shaky tinkle. My heart skipped. Lisa barged in without waiting for an answer, panic and concern written all over her face. She dropped to her knees beside me, wrapping me in a fierce hug as I sobbed helplessly in her arms. What happened? Talk to me, she whispered urgently into my hair. Between sobs, I managed to stammer out, I caught them together. Lisa's expression turned from confusion to horror in seconds. Oh my God. No, she muttered, clutching my hand tight. I buried my face into her shoulder, feeling the warmth of her tears melding with mine. Lisa guided me to sit on the couch and handed me tissues, pulling me up gently. I was a sobbing, shaken mess, and she had no idea how to make it better either. Lisa gave me a gentle shake, wiping a tear from my cheek. Okay, let's take this one step at a time, she said firmly. You need to get out of there for now. Grab your keys and phone. We'll drive for a bit. Just breathe, okay? I nodded numbly. My legs were shaky, but with her support, I managed to stand. Together, Lisa and I walked back into the living room. The atmosphere was heavy and awkward. My sister and husband were still there, looking as stunned as I felt. They froze when they saw Lisa behind me, like trapdoors had opened. My husband's shirt was half buttoned, and my sister's eyes were red from crying. The sight of them made my knees want to buckle again, but Lisa took my hand in hers, squeezing tightly. My sister took a small step forward, eyes brimming with tears. I I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for you to find out like this, she said softly, voice cracking. My husband stood up quickly, dropping the flowers on a side table. He smoothed his shirt and straightened as if trying to regain his composure. Honey, please let me explain, he began, voice hoarse. But I shook my head slightly, too numb to interrupt their little performance. The anger and hurt were so raw I could barely keep my voice steady. I remembered the lump in my throat from that morning's breakfast. Now it felt lodged in my chest. They both looked at me, waiting. I finally found my voice, though it sounded smaller to my own ears than I intended. What the hell were you thinking? I managed to say, though I hardly thought it was a fair question. My husband stepped forward as if to comfort me, but I jerked back, fury bubbling at his touch. He opened his arms, pleading, I'm so sorry, I love you, it meant nothing. I was wrong. My sister slid off the couch, managing to sit right next to him. Her voice was barely a whisper. I know I screwed up. I never meant to hurt you, she said. I stared at the two people I had trusted most, feeling like the entire floor had dropped away. I remembered how, at bedtime, I used to say goodnight to them both. Now those sweet memories tasted like betrayal in my mouth. My husband's apology felt hollow under my anger. My hands balled into fists at my sides. Finally, I spat out, You both disgust me. Don't you dare ever touch me again. My words hung in the thick silence. My sister's eyes widened, her entire body trembling. I needed space. I turned without a word and stormed out of the house, my fingers scraping against the doorframe as I left. The door slammed behind me so hard I thought it might break. Lisa followed me out and wrapped an arm around my trembling shoulders. A wave of nausea hit me, and I dropped to the curb, burying my face in my hands. I pressed my knees into the concrete and leaned forward, trying not to puke. The cool air of the evening did nothing to cool my fevered skin. That's when the reality really settled in. My sister and my husband had cheated on me together in my own home. I couldn't decide if I felt more sick or furious. Probably both. Lisa guided me to her car. I sat in the back seat, head in my hands, trying to stop the bile of betrayal from rising. They're not worth it, Lisa said firmly as she started the engine. Those people mean nothing to you now. I opened my mouth to argue, but my throat twisted in knots. I wanted to yell that it wasn't that simple. I had loved them, still did, even in that broken moment. Instead, I just shook my head and stared out the window at the familiar houses passing by. We drove in silence for a while, the radio playing softly. When we pulled into Lisa's driveway, I just sat there, staring at the dashboard. Lisa led me inside and sat me down on her living room couch, draping a soft blanket around my shoulders. She poured me a glass of water and took my phone from me. I'm going to leave them on red for now, she announced quietly. You don't have to talk to them until you're ready. I nodded, drained. We'll figure this out, she assured me. Tonight, just rest. Tomorrow, maybe we can think about what you want to do. The weight of everything threatened to crush me, but Lisa's calm voice was a tiny lifeline. I clung to it. For weeks, Lisa and I became inseparable. She refused to let me be alone, rallying friends around me and insisting I still had a life to live. One night, as we sat on her porch wrapped in blankets watching the stars, she told me, "You did nothing wrong. They made horrible choices. Don't you even think for a second that this is your fault." I looked at her, tears brimming. "I know," I said quietly, "but I feel broken." She squeezed my hand. "Broken people can heal. You will heal, and when you do, you'll see they never deserved your forgiveness, not if they hurt you this badly." Over the next day or two, my phone buzzed constantly with messages from both of them, each one drenched in pleas and apologies. They called, texting lines like, "I love you. Please forgive me, and I'm so sorry I can't live without you." I didn't respond. I needed time to think. Each time it buzzed, my heart jumped into my throat. One night, I found an email from my husband. "Please, we need to talk. I'll do anything." Another from my sister. "You're my only sister. We are family. Please don't throw us away." It was like a physical pain, every ding of my phone reminding me of their betrayal. 2 days later, on a chilly Sunday morning, I heard a faint knock at the door. My heart lurched. How did they know I was home? Lisa nudged me awake from my drowsy slump on the couch. "Go see who it is," she said quietly. With trembling hands, I opened the door. Standing there were both my husband and my sister, looking more broken and disheveled than I'd ever seen them. My sister held a box of tissues in her hand, and my husband clutched a wilted bouquet of daisies. They both looked at my feet as I stood in the doorway, and a heavy silence settled in the crisp morning air. My sister finally looked up, and her eyes filled with desperate tears. "Can we please come in?" "I know you must hate us, but please," she begged softly. My husband echoed, voice thick. "Please, I swear I just need to say something." Lisa quietly stood up and watched me. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing me let them in, but I realized I had to hear them out. I stepped aside, wordlessly. They shuffled in, my sister reaching out to touch my arm, as if that would somehow make everything okay. They guided themselves carefully onto my couch, eyes never leaving the floor. My sister was the first to speak, her voice shaken. "I have nothing to say that can fix this," she said. "You've every right to never speak to me again. But I want you to know I am so, so sorry." Her words came out in a rush, but I watched her choke on tears. My husband glanced at her gratefully and then turned to face me, his own voice cracking. "I know I destroyed everything. I've thought about it every second since that day. You are my wife, my best friend. I made a terrible, terrible mistake. This was a one-time thing, and it didn't mean a thing compared to the years we've spent together." Sobbing, I pulled myself to sit across from them, knees hugging the cushion. My hands were still trembling. I felt small and exposed, as if time had slowed to watch me break. "You destroyed everything," I finally whispered, voice barely audible even to myself. "My home, my happiness, our trust." My sister gently moved so she was on the floor next to me. She reached out and tried to wrap her arms around me. I flinched and pulled away. Over and over, I could replay their last words in my head, but hearing me say anything back to them felt impossible. Instead, I buried my face in my hands, feeling tears soak the pillows beneath. They both watched me, waiting, perhaps wanting to see if I would scream or break down completely, but all I could do was cry. I wiped my eyes and finally looked up at them. How long was all I managed at first, choking on the question. They both shook their heads. Not long, my sister said softly. Only a few weeks. We were stupid, my husband added. I know that's so little comfort, but it's the truth. I have never loved anyone other than you. Their words felt hollow. A flicker of anger rose. How long did you plan this, huh? I snapped, feeling some heat return to my voice for the first time. Did you even consider how this could destroy me? My sister's head fell into her hands. My husband sat forward, frowning. We never thought that far ahead. I just, I don't have a good excuse. I was selfish. My sister looked up at me with tear-streaked cheeks. I know I was selfish and thought only about myself at the moment, she whispered. Her voice sounded tired, defeated. I never even meant for this to happen to you. I am so, so sorry, she reached out and softly took my hand. I swallowed a ball of raw emotion in my throat. My husband fell to his knees in front of me, head bowed. You have every right to hate me, he said quietly. I promise I will spend the rest of my life trying to make up for this. I'll go to counseling, get help for myself, anything. I can't lose you. I felt the weight of everything crash on top of me. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, long after Lisa had gone home. Every creak of the house and whisper of wind felt like echoes of their betrayal. I checked my phone, 3 a.m., and tossed it aside. Sleep felt impossible. My mind replayed every detail of that afternoon, like a broken record in my skull. Eventually, exhaustion washed over me, and I drifted into a fitful sleep filled with nightmares. In my dreams, I was locked in my own home, chased by shadows wearing the faces of my sister and husband. I woke up before dawn, the pillow soaked in tears, my heart hammering as if it had run a marathon. I fell back asleep at last, but only after holding my breath for several long minutes and reminding myself that I was safe in Lisa's living room, not the living room of that betrayal. A week later, I returned to work feeling hollow. Sitting at my desk, I looked at emails about projects and meetings as if through fog. My coworker stopped by to ask about the weekend, and I lied, through a tight smile, fine, thanks, while I felt like I was existing underwater. I went through the motions because I had to, but inside, I was still that broken wife sitting on the curb outside my house. It was surreal trying to function normally when my entire world had been turned upside down. After work, I went to a nearby cafe, pretending to enjoy a hot coffee, but the taste was bitter as I replayed everything in my mind for the 100th time. I felt dizzy with exhaustion and all the swirling emotions inside me. My sister's words, his words, they were sincere, I could tell. But how could I ever look at them the same way again? All I could think was how differently things could have gone if just once they had come to me, if just once I hadn't needed to catch them myself. I sat in silence, tears rolling down my cheeks. Everything they said hit me like waves. The memories, the love, but also the betrayal. It was a poison that wouldn't wash out easily. Finally, I looked up at them with red, tired eyes. I need time, I said quietly. I don't know what will happen now. My sister nodded vigorously, biting her lip to keep from crying again. My husband slowly stood and walked toward me. He reached out tentatively, but I flinched and pulled back. He took a breath. I understand. I'll wait for you, however long it takes. I'll do whatever it is you want me to do, he said, voice low. Over the next few weeks, I talked to them when I could. They both sobbed and promised to do anything, but time wasn't healing my trust. I went back to our home once to pack my things. The place I once loved became a museum of memories I could barely face. I took only what I could carry, a few clothes, our wedding photo, a handful of small keepsakes. Everything else I left behind. With Lisa's help, I found a small apartment of my own. Walking away felt like a fresh start and an end all at once. My parents heard about what happened and insisted on helping me pack. That afternoon, they arrived with a moving van and stayed calm and strong for me. My dad stood by quietly as I boxed up items, while my mom kept a steady stream of words like, "It will be okay," and "You're safe now." Having them there was a quiet comfort in the middle of chaos. They helped me put a brave face on when I felt like crumbling. As I closed the door of that house behind me for the last time, my mom gave me a tight hug. "You are so strong," she whispered. "We are all so proud of you." My dad clapped me on the back with tears in his eyes. That warmth from them, the love of my remaining family, was the best medicine in that moment. Their support reminded me I didn't have to face this pain alone. I was never actually alone. My sister moved in with our mother for a while and started going to therapy, and my husband gave me the space I needed. They both stopped texting constantly. Instead, they focused on improving themselves. I started therapy too, forcing myself to work through the hurt and anger. Some days I still break down thinking about what they did, but other days I catch myself laughing at something silly or planning my next weekend getaway, and I realize maybe I'm healing. I've learned that I have to put myself first now. I let my sister keep the engagement ring from my husband. It meant nothing to me anymore, but to her it was a symbol of responsibility. In letting go of what I had, I feel weight gradually lifting off my shoulders. My therapist told me that what happened was not my fault, and that rebuilding trust is a process that takes as long as it needs. It was the first time I truly believed I could have a future again, even if it looked very different from the one I planned. Over the next few weeks, we met up for coffee. Nothing fancy, just me and my sister sitting on a park bench talking. It was awkward at first. We circled around serious topics with small talk. She told me the same story over and over, how much she missed me, how sorry she was, how badly she'd been regretting everything. I told her I was still hurt and that forgiveness wouldn't come easy. We sat in silence for a long moment. Then she started telling me about work and her favorite new books, things I hadn't heard about in months. We even found ourselves laughing at a ridiculous story she told about a cat wearing sunglasses. It felt like the first real conversation we'd had since everything fell apart. I reminded myself this was a start, a tiny step towards something we might rebuild. Over the next few weeks, I spent many nights listening to podcasts and reading articles about betrayal and healing. Every story I consumed reaffirmed the same message. I would survive this. Gradually, I built a small routine to take care of myself. Morning walks with my headphones in, journaling my anger and my progress, exploring the city with new eyes. It felt good to reclaim a part of myself that had been lost in that living room on that awful day. I even took a short trip to the mountains with Lisa to clear my mind, breathing fresh air in until I could feel some of the darkness lift. Slowly but surely, the jagged edges of that wound were becoming dull scars, not open cuts. One afternoon, almost on impulse, I posted anonymously on a forum about infidelity. I wrote in detail about what had happened and how shattered I felt. Within hours, people were responding with kindness and encouragement. They told me I was strong and that it wasn't my fault. Strangers who understood my pain offered advice and their own stories of overcoming betrayal. Reading those messages made me feel less alone. I realized that even if the two people who were supposed to love me most had hurt me, there were still good people out there. The next day, I closed the laptop, feeling a tiny glimmer of hope for the first time in weeks. After about half a year, I even began dating again. Nothing serious at first, just coffee dates and walks in the park. I was amazed that I could laugh at someone's jokes without feeling guilty for loving again. One of them, a kind man from my yoga class, asked me out for dinner. I said yes, hesitantly. That night, as I got ready, I noticed I felt normal butterflies in my stomach for the first time in a long time. And once I arrived, he didn't turn out to be another accident waiting to happen. He listened, I shared a bit about how I was healing, and he never made me feel broken. It wasn't a great love story, but I left feeling good about myself. On the way home, I realized how far I'd come. I could smile and feel hopeful. I was living my life again. About a year later, I attended my cousin's wedding alone. It was the first big family event I'd been to since everything happened. I walked down the aisle to give my toast, still nervous and alone, but with a confidence I never thought I'd have in that moment. When I spoke, I felt no tears or anger, just happiness for my cousin and a genuine belief that I deserved happiness too. Afterward, I sat by myself on the dance floor for a bit, wiping champagne from my lips, and allowed myself to feel proud. No one knew the battle I had been fighting, but I had fought it and won. And on that night, celebrating love and new beginnings, I felt like I was finally allowed a new beginning too. One day, months later, I got a text from my sister saying simply, "Hi." I stared at it, my phone in my hand. I didn't know how to respond. My sister and I hadn't spoken much since everything happened. I spent most days building my new life and avoiding the hole in my heart. I typed a tentative hello, and after a long pause, she wrote back, "I just wanted to say happy birthday. I miss you." My hands trembled, but I replied, "I miss you too." It felt like a door opening that I had closed on my own. We talked for hours that night, hesitantly at first, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, we continued meeting in coffee shops and parks. We laughed, cried, and slowly began rebuilding a sisterhood that had once felt torn apart. It would never be the same as it was, I reminded myself. But maybe we could find a new normal together. I ran into my ex-husband on purpose once, just to see if he'd say anything. It was in the pet store of all places. I was looking at cat food. I bought a cat from the shelter a few months after moving out. When I spotted him buying the same brand that day, he nearly jumped when he saw me. "Hey," he managed, voice low. "I didn't expect—" I cut him off gently. "I didn't either," I said. We exchanged awkward hellos. He told me he had started a new job in another city now and had met someone he was trying to start a new life with. I felt a twist in my gut, but managed to smile and wish him well. That was the final closure I needed with him. I realized I truly had moved on when I felt genuinely happy for him to find someone else. It meant I could finally close that chapter too. My sister and I have a safe relationship now, different than before, but healing. My ex married the woman he left me for, and though part of me felt sad, I know I'm better off. Forgiveness will come when I'm ready, not because they asked. These days, I focus on small joys, brunches with friends, cozy movie nights, coffee in my own kitchen. The old memories still ache sometimes, but they fade, replaced by laughter and hope. I dream of a future built on trust and love, and I carry this truth. If I survived that pain, I can survive anything. Now, I wake up most mornings to the sound of birds chirping outside my window. My little cat, which I adopted after moving out, climbs onto my chest for breakfast, purring as if he consents when I need extra affection. These things might seem small, but they mean the world to me now. In the reflection of the mirror each morning, I see the same woman who walked out of a nightmare. She's stronger. She's still smiling, even if it's sometimes just a tiny smile. Lately, that smile has been getting bigger and brighter. This is what happened to me. It's messy, painful, and took everything I thought I knew about love and family and threw it in the garbage. But here I am telling this story, and I'm okay. If even one person out there has gone through something similar and hears this, I hope they can take one thing from it. You can break, but you don't have to stay broken. You can find joy again, even after something this awful.